Hi, my name is Richard Pennycook and welcome to Export Kit. In this example, I'll be demonstrating how to update your current website or blog using Export Kit. Now, this is a very simple task, so we're going to basically demonstrate how to do this. Now, we're using WordPress for this example, and the reason is that WordPress, depending on your theme, will likely have a customized CSS or JavaScript framework that is pre-installed with the theme itself. So when you're using Export Kit will create a unique CSS to actually render your PSD, so you can't just copy the elements as is. You're going to need to basically do a little bit of reworking. So we're going to demonstrate how to do this in this example, and this is very easy. So what we're going to do first is we're going to basically export our actual PSD file. So you can see that we have a design here. Now this contains a couple of layers and a couple of folders. So what we're going to do is we're going to select HTML5. We want to customize our output, and we want to have relative positions and layer effects enabled. And this actually depends on what your requirements are. You can also select CSS images if you'd like. So let's go ahead and let's export this. Now, once your export is complete, what we're going to need to do is modify the files slightly so that we can actually use them on our current blog or website, and also use it in conjunction with our current CSS. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the files. Now you can use any text editor of your choice. We're using Sublime Text here. Just going to actually drag the files over. So what we have here is we have our CSS file from our export, and we have our HTML file. Now to modify the content, this is a very quick process, but you just have to basically pay attention to what you're doing to ensure that you copy the correct elements. So the first thing we want to do is, with our HTML file, we want to basically remove the body tag. This is not required for your blog or your current website. So what we can do is simply just delete the HTML and the body tag. So you should be left with a single content container div. So this is this layer here itself. So let's just make this a bit more visible, or actually more in line. Now the next step that we want to do is, if you go back to the very top, what we want to do is add a style tag. So this will basically allow us to enter our CSS information from our export, but within a single file. So we can add style. Now, if we go back to our CSS file, there are a couple of things to note with this, and we will make this process a lot easier with Lightning Storm, but currently this is a very quick way of actually manipulating your current exports. What we want to do is we want to copy content container, and this is very individual. We want to copy this particular information, and we want to paste this to the actual div, and we want to paste this to the image, so that you should have your tags actually similar to this, where the image and the div is in reference to content container only. This way you won't throw off your previous CSS that you have, which is actually applied to your website itself. So the next thing we want to do is we just want to delete the body tag. This is not required for your current website or blog, simply because you most likely have this already assigned, and we don't want to throw that off either. So what we can do now is we can simply select all and copy, go back to the HTML file. Now within the style tags itself, all you want to do is paste, and that's it. Now if you look at your actual file, you should have a style tag at the top, which has your current CSS from your export, and right below that you should have your HTML output, because that's the environment that we selected, and it will have your current layer structure based on your PSD. So also remember that it's important to only have the div of the content container. You do not require anything else from your actual HTML file. Now once we have this information here in one file, you can save this if you'd like as a reference. The only thing we need to do is we can just simply now select all. Now if we go back to our blog, this is our actual page itself here. The next step that we can do is, if we create a new page, and again this will be dependent on what your environment is. We're using WordPress, and let's call it test page, and we can simply now, let's make sure we're actually using the text editor. We can now just paste in the information, we publish. Now if we go back and we refresh the page, you'll see that we have test page. Now, if you scroll, you'll see that there's nothing there and your content will likely actually be at the bottom of your WordPress site, and this is not what we want. Now, the reason this happens is it's very simple actually. WordPress will automatically add paragraphs to text when you enter your actual post or page information. This is a top-up feature of WordPress. So what we want to do is to basically disable this, and this is very common. We can simply, let's just open this in another tab. We can actually go to editor. Now if we go to our functions file, what we can do is we can simply disable the top-up. So let's just find a quick place to do this. This is the default 2010, so let's probably just scroll to the bottom. And let's just add 2 simple lines. This is based on WordPress. You can just remove the auto top-up on the content and the excerpt. So let's just update the file. Let's go back to our test page and let's refresh. And you'll see that now our information is there completely. Now there is another thing to note. You'll see again that the content is actually spanning beyond the actual page length itself. Now I understand that a lot of you are designers who may be watching this video, so without going into too much detail, the error that we just saw in WordPress itself, this is likely to happen only dependent on your actual WordPress settings and your PSD settings. And what I'll do is I'll just show you exactly what the problem is. WordPress uses a lot of individual tags and classes, well, in particular names, to actually denote their content. In one particular, what we're doing is we're overriding one of the WordPress settings and we're actually using content here. Now the problem is what we've done is we've reassigned the WordPress content to basically use the settings that we've used within our PSD. So the simple way to change this is to basically add a different name. So let's call it blog content. We go there, let's re-export. Let's actually save this and re-export. Now once the export's complete, it's very important to note if you have errors where elements seem to be out of place or basically the entire design looks misaligned, it's likely that what you've done is you've overridden one of the actual WordPress IDs with an ID from your actual PSD. So you can just go back and double check it. Now if we go back to our actual WordPress site, what we're going to have to do is, because we've re-exported our content, we're basically going to have to change that information once again. So if we go back to our files, we can simply reload the new information. And we can reload both actual files themselves. So let's do this again. So we basically remove the body tag, and let's go to the bottom, remove the body tag. Now what we can do is we can simply shift this over just to make it a little bit more readable. We go back to our CSS, we copy the content container, paste it before the div, paste it before the image, delete the body tag, select all, copy, go back to the HTML. What we want to do is add a style tag, and then inside that style tag we want to paste the CSS from our previous file. Now what we can do is we can simply copy and paste this to our actual blog once again. So if we go back to the page, we can simply just basically paste over the previous information, update that page, and now you'll see that now our page is actually now in line with WordPress, and this will again reflect any website that is basically live and has a customized CSS or JavaScript framework. Now there are another couple of things that we want to just basically take note of. One of them is that our image itself did not load correctly. Now the reason that this is, basically our images have a direct path. Basically they have to be related to our WordPress design. Now what we can do is we can simply just add the actual images to our post, and that way we have a path that we can reflect now in our actual output. The problem that we have is that our image path itself, if we were to inspect the element, it's looking for an image that doesn't exist on the server. So let's go ahead and let's just add the images to the server. So if we go to media, let's just go there, let's add new, let's add our images to our WordPress site. A second to crunch. Now, once our files are actually updated to our server, the fastest way to change this is to basically go back to our file, and what we want to do is change our skins path. So if we basically select dot dot and skins, we're just going to now make this relative to our actual server. So we can just do a search and replace. Okay, so now that we've basically replaced all of the skin files, their paths, so we can go back and now we can just copy this information back to our blog. So if we go back to the test page, just simply replace all the content, update. Now if we go back to our page, you'll see that it's still not present, and this is simply because we inputted the wrong path. So let's go back and let's change that one more time. Let's actually change that to WP, and let's replace all. So this is very important. Again, ensure that you have the correct path when you're actually updating your image content. Let's go back to our blog and let's simply update the content. Now if we go back and we refresh the page, now you'll see that all our content is now in line exactly as we designed from our Photoshop file.